can you tell us a little bit about your background? It sounds like you maybe have a programming background, and I guess
None.
maybe kind of explain to us, us kind of normal people, how we can become better at PowerShell, because you're doing a lot of complex stuff. So can you tell us maybe, kind of give us some tips on how we might improve our skills, other than just Googling, how do I do this, which is what I do.
I would say tenacity and stubbornness are really good features. So I'm not a developer. I don't have any professional training. I just didn't, like, I found out that I enjoyed, automation. And so I started writing some PowerShell many years ago, and just snowballed. So the best thing to do is, solve a problem. Personally, I really buy into the infrastructure as code concept. And I think anybody that's moving now or recently moved into Office 365, you're ripe for starting that process today. So there's so many modules available, and like working with Graph is tough, right? That's a very, very developer-y thing to do. But to go download the Azure AD module or the Microsoft Online module, and then just issue connect MSOL service, connect Azure AD, whatever, and start playing around with those commandlets, the bar isn't as high as it would be with, well, how do I set up an OAuth app registration so that I can authenticate to my own Graph API and then pass all of that data through, right? Like, that's a whole nother level. So think of some of the things that you do today in the GUI and just write some code against it, and then use that code instead. And the more that you use the code, the less you'll go to the GUI. You'll just find out that it's so much easier and faster as you get the more comfortable you become in that console. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really, the first step is the hardest step for me. When PowerShell V1 came out, it was rough. It wasn't like it is today, and I kept using the GUI as the crutch. And so I just really got upset at myself for it and just said, you know what? I'm done. I don't care if it takes me days to answer something that I could do in the GUI in minutes. I'm no crutch. I'm doing this. And luckily I had a job at the time that let me be that slow, right? But I threw that crutch away and forced myself to start solving it the PowerShell way. And it didn't take very long at all to really get comfy in the console. And then from there, you just start gluing it together. Most programming is all the same stuff. It's a for each loop and an if loop, right? Or an if statement. So everything else around those two is just special sauce. So I get some data, I loop through it, I make some decisions with if blocks, and then I do something with it afterwards, right? So moving to the whole WebG identity management thing, granted that's definitely, let me show you. I gotta connect to my VPN real quick.
Yeah, one thing I'll add.
One
thing I'll add to that is when the Exchange first started moving to PowerShell as kind of a supported module, Microsoft actually did a pretty good job of, when you're clicking through the GUI to do things, they allowed you to, here's a PowerShell code we're executing to do the same thing. And so they were all but telling you could have done this way faster if you use PowerShell. And so looking at the tools that you use today, you might be able to find some existing PowerShell that does stuff. So we use a tool called Adaxis for Active Directory management, and it connects into Office 365 and does automated license management for us. And under the covers, it's just doing PowerShell, and that's all it is. And so we were able to look at that and repurpose some of that code to allow us to do kind of one-off and special case license assignments that don't fall into a regular automation tool. And there's other tools like that literally, yeah, it's a GUI, but when you actually look at what it's doing, it's just doing PowerShell calls. And so it's pretty easy to get to some of that code and kind of understand how other people have already done similar things.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Finding the code for something simple is about Microsoft's done a good job of making that pretty available to you. Like even in Azure, if you go, do something, it'll be like, well, here's what that ARM template would look like. And then you can take that and do with it what you will. But a lot of those things, like for me, I know starting out, I would clicky in the Exchange console, and the command that it issued back was pretty substantial. And so starting, even making that jump could be tough sometimes. I found for me the easiest thing was you can't screw up gets, right? Anything that starts with get dash, it's a guaranteed win for you. You're going to come out having learned something, and you can't screw it up, man, because you're only getting data. You only got to worry when you issue a set dash command, right? Those are the ones you should be concerned with. But so for me, it was more about just exploring. It was just about getting something and then taking that data on my own computer and learning and just exploring the data. And I learned so much about PowerShell just by using gets and just, generating a CSV file at the end of it, something like that. And then just stepping on from there, moving forward and forward and forward. Because there's a ton of things that you guys probably all can do today that that you're probably doing once a week, once a month, once a day, something like that. That's just tedious work that you can make go away. I don't like doing anything more than about 2 times before I write code against it. So once a week, I get a report that tells me what my current license count is versus the licenses that we've purchased, so that I can make sure that we're not approaching too high to the number. And if so, then I have code that I can already go run to deprovision stuff. So anytime a user mailbox gets made, I've got code that runs and enables lit hold automatically if it's a user mailbox or a shared mailbox. So all of our mailboxes always are litigation held. We don't have to worry about that one. The Kerberos decryption key rollovers, that's automated once a month, because you're supposed to roll that over every 30 days. So, and I always end up forgetting about it, and I'd look at it and be like, oh man, I'm 60 days, 90 days past due. So I just wrote some code real fast to write, that's like 6 lines of code, man. So anyway, here's the WebGIA right here. So it's, in fact, let me do this too. Mark Domansky WebGIA. Wow, it's slow. Still thinking about it. Well, we'll take a look at that when it comes back. So this is all the stuff that we've written for our organization in WebGIA. And the cool part is like each of these things that you see are controlled with a JSON file. And so we have different AD groups that provide access to different portions of, or different scripts depending on who you are. So our help desk has some of this, our admins have some of this, like the gal stuff that I was talking about are these down here, and that's all they get are just these. So I see everything because I support it, but most users when they sign in will see like 3 to maybe 6 of these different things. So like one of the cool ones that we've got is like this one, for instance. This is really slow. I'm guessing Zoom and my VPN don't like each other very much. But like I can type in TSD-T019166. So that's my own computer. And this will go out and query Active Directory and give me my lapse password. So our help desk or our desktop support folks can log in here and then retrieve off of a web page what they need to get into the computer they're supporting right next to them. Stuff like that really easily, right?
That's awesome.
And then like the gal stuff that I made for Office 3 for Azure AD is all down here. So they a new volunteer shows up. All I have to do is put in first, middle, last name, give it a unique value and the district, and then I'll provision the user, set up a mailbox, give it an email address. I compute a default password off of the data that comes in from here. So they already know this is what your password's supposed to be for first login. And then when they log in, they'll set up MFA and be forced to change their password. You know, if they have a question about a user, then they can use this function, and this will just give them back data about that user. So I think I'm in here. So let me NCGal volunteer.
It's really cool.
And so this connects to Azure AD and then just pulls back the data about that user that they would care about. And as they find other things that they need to know about, I just continue to go add more things to the object. And then the object just gets returned down here, right? So yeah, this is my poor man's identity management for Gal down here. So we've got some really cool stuff going like that. And I bet this will work now. So this WebGIA is super swank for y'all that are interested in it. It run like it, so you know the WebGIA service will need to have permissions for whatever it is that you want it to do. So like our WebGIA account, this is a group managed service account, so it changes its password automatically every 30 days. Well, this one rather. But it is a domain admin account. So I can write any code I want against Active Directory and have it work via this, but the users never ever have domain admin, right? They only have the access with which we give them inside the PowerShell code. So that's how that works. So this is where it's at. Like I said, it's 100% free. It's just an open source GitHub project from Mark Domansky. So if you just search for Mark Domansky and WebGIA, it'll take you to this repo, and he gives you all the instructions on how to install it and how it works and what to use and some basic setup information. And then from there, the sky's the limit. So we have, me change real fast. I don't mean to step on this. If y'all aren't interested in any of this, we can totally talk about something different.
No way. This is great, dude. Glenn, you gotta figure out a way to bribe Jeremy into posting some of this code over to the NCLGISA GitHub.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, so Donna at Pitt County, Donna Davis, she's been trying to keep the GitHub running for NCLGISA. We started to get it off the ground, and then, you know, we started COVIDing. You know, and it kind of died. So if you guys are interested in Git, definitely get with Donna Davis at Pitt County or myself, and we'll get you connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind contributing code. So this is the function for WebGIA. So it's basic PowerShell, right? So here's some parameters. This is going to look like it's really easy, but hold on a minute. So I'm importing a few modules. So this is where most of that work's coming from. So I wrote my own module for all of the user support. And then I need Azure AD, of course. And then because I'm connecting to Azure AD, my domain admin on WebGIA doesn't matter. So I'm using the secrets management module, which that's pretty slick on its own. I don't know if you guys know about that. But this code needs to be able to authenticate to Azure AD, and then so how do I store the password and the username for that, right? So before secrets management module, you would typically build a credential object by putting in the username, and you'd store the password in a file on the file system encrypted by the service that's running it and all of that. So now with the secrets management module, you can actually store it inside the built-in vault. Or there's other providers, so you can use KeePass or LastPass and be able to, with PowerShell, programmatically retrieve and update secrets in those locations. So I'm using these three modules. So here is where I'm getting the secret. So like you can take a look. So if I do get secret info, so I keep my provisioner accounts for Gal and Office 365 stored in the built-in vault. And then here, when I say get the secret for galprov, I'm actually retrieving the secret out of the local LSAS on this computer, and then using that object to connect to Azure AD. So I can issue this command and this command, and then I'm connected as this account in Azure AD. And nobody ever sees the secret, right? It's protected, just like my own password is. So that's really it. This is all that I'm doing when that command, when you go create a new user for that gal, it loads these modules, grabs a password, connects to AD, and then it runs this new gal user command, which is something I wrote out of this module. And then as long as that command's successful, it displays that data. If it's not, it says it failed to connect the user, and it disconnects. But like the module that is a little more substantial, I think. So like that's this module right here. So remove new, I think is the first one in this module. So this is the code that I'm using for new gal user. So establish some private functions for constructing the name, the UPN, the display name, and the default password. And then take the data that's passed into the function, do the work.
And so that begs the question, right? Right now you're providing probably a spreadsheet or CSV or XML, something like that as your feed, right?
No, this is all on demand. So
okay,
this is what's running.
Well, I guess what I'm getting to is, what do you use for your HR? And have you tried connecting it directly into that and, have an HR drive it?
So we have one of those as well, but for the gal stuff, the volunteers come and go pretty quickly. And so this is a whole group inside AOC, inside the Association of the Courts, that are tasked and responsible for supporting all the volunteers. So they're not part of the HR system for what is a court employee. They're a volunteer for Guardian Ad Litem.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Right. So this is something totally different than what our actual, than the judicial branch itself would be. So for these, there is no HR system or anything like that. It's somebody filled out some paperwork and said, I want to volunteer. And then they needed a user and an email address to be able to interact with the lawyers and the people that are North Carolina judicial employees as full-time employees. And so all of that code is what's supporting this page. Let's then type this stuff in, because I'm just taking these values and then passing them into this function here with first name, each of them. And then those values are just being worked with. So, and a lot of this is really just string manipulation stuff, because you can't trust somebody to not put a space. Like they might copy and paste the name and it has a white space at the end of it. Well, I don't want that white space in the name. So when the user has to type in their username, it has to be user space dot whatever. So, a lot of this is just cleaning stuff like that up. And some of this is things that I ran into as I was doing it to begin with, because I didn't take into account hyphenated names at first. So now I have a check here that's well, if there's a hyphen in your name, then I need to make sure I keep the hyphen in your name. So here's a bunch of work to support the hyphen in the name. Otherwise, I can just build you. So am I screen sharing this? I think I'm talking about something you're not even looking at.
Yeah, we're looking at the AOC self-service.
You're still looking at WebGL.
User, yep.
All right, there you go. So this code here is what I was looking at. So the trim takes out white space if they put it in, while typing that first name, last name, or middle name. If they type it in and leave a white space at the beginning or end, this will take it out. And then here's me handling what to do with a hyphen, but still making the name look decent. If you don't have a hyphen, then I can just do this right here Same for the UPN. So they don't get to pick what their email address is. I make their email address by what their name is. And so here I'm just taking that. So if a middle name exists, then I'm doing first the middle initial and the dot the middle initial dot the last name. Otherwise, I'm doing first dot last name. And then later on, I check because somebody might already have that first dot last name. So if so, I have a function that will just increment the value. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 it till it finds the appropriate one.
Yeah, this is
So
Mike
like
from
really,
Wake County again. Yeah, we do a similar function to that, but we actually integrate into our HR system. And so
yeah,
once we get folks directly from HR, now we have honestly, we have an antique of an HR system. So the only option we had was a space delimited file. And so we use PowerShell. It's all on-prem because we do all of our work within Active Directory and then just sync everything up after the user accounts are all provisioned. But the same concept, read the file, execute everything, title, position, manager, supervisor, whatever information we pull from HR all gets populated based on that feed. It's very complicated.
yeah.
It's like 300 some lines of code to run through all of that. So
We have the
cool.
same. For us, it's a CSV file. So all you get is a CSV file it doesn't even come with a header on it. So I have to build my own header, apply it to the CSV file, and then loop through all the rows in the CSV file in order to keep our users in sync.
How are you handling some of the longer names that come about and some of the concerns around that with UPN sizing and all that?
At the moment, I don't have that problem, so I'm not.
Okay.
So
I run into that problem.
we'll call this agile development, and I'll iterate on that once I need to.
Okay.
So it's a valid concern. So when I get to that point, I'll have to start truncating something, and then add truncate at n-1, so that way I have at least one more value to increment with a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing to it, probably n-2, so you can get the 99 iterations of the same value.
Yeah, then you got to worry if that user is okay with the name that you give them, because they may not want their hyphenated name to look that way.
Yeah, so we have had that a couple times, and I just wait on them to complain, and then they can update that using the other function. So, but my approach to it is value consistency, and so I would rather create things that follow a convention, and then wait until there's an exception, and then work on the exception, then give people an opportunity to break convention at the start.
Yeah, for sure. That's a little easier to address.
Yeah, so I've always built everything that I can build anyway, with using constructs, and then letting somebody complain after the fact, and then I'll fix it for them. So even if I don't mind fixing things, I don't mind giving somebody a vanity email, but I'm probably not going to just be like, hey, what do you want? I'll make anything you want right from the start, because it just becomes so hard to support later. And even if I do give them something like that, I'll still maintain some construct for me to use and key off of at the same time. So here's a little bit other code that I thought was pretty useful. This would be probably something worth sending to the NCLGISA repo for sure, just because it's quite important, right? So have you guys, or you folks, actually rolled over your decryption keys on a regular basis? Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
I Googled it the other day when you told me about it, but that was the first I've heard of it, honestly. So it's pretty, yeah, I got to get on that.
Yeah, so let me log in and I'll show you what's up. Come on.
And I gotta say, thanks for showing us this. I'm watching the wheels in Ted's head moving as he's watching this. This is going to be fun seeing what comes of this.
All right, that should get me in. So this is kind of a big deal. So I'll take this opportunity to just say, anybody that's in Office 365 right now, head into your Azure AD and go take a look. Come on. Yeah, this has got to be Zoom and my VPN together. Aren't friends. This is crazy slow.
Yeah, that's typical.
But
VPN
probably
doesn't
'cause
like anything high data.
it might be because Wake Forest is on the line too.
So in Azure AD, come on. Over here on the left, under Azure AD Connect, that's the one we want. You'll see this part right here, this seamless single sign-on part. In order for the SSO to work, there's a Kerberos decryption key that has to exist. So what that means is that anything that comes through Azure Active Directory the Kerberos ticket can be fully decrypted and harvested. So if an attacker were to somehow manage to get that key, then they could redirect a Kerberos authentication to their service with that key and then get a bunch of information from your users without the user really ever even knowing, right? So granted, lots of steps to get there, but possible, and quite bad if it were to happen. So Microsoft says roll this key every 30 days. And to roll the key, it's this line right here. That's it. That's all there is to it. So you run, you connect to or log into your AD Connect server. You use this command to connect to your Azure AD tenant, and then you'll use this command to re-roll that key. And the key will get generated on the AD Connect server. It'll get pushed up into Azure, and for the next 30 days, or until you change it again, Azure will use that key to decrypt everything that tries to authenticate from any of your users for SSO. So you want to change that one pretty regularly. So what I did is I just wrote a little bit of code for it. I mean, it's that much. And that's to support two different domains, because I have to do both my domain and the Supreme Court of Appeals for North Carolina, because we support them as well. So same thing as before, I've got some secrets stored on the computer, that way you don't see the passwords. I connect to Office 365 or Azure AD in this instance. So I use this to validate my connection. And if I were to ever get more, like have to support more domains, then this would allow me to loop through them. And I would just have to add another case in my for each of those domains. And then for each of those domains, I'm going through and just updating that key. And I assume failure to start with. This is just for reportings. So once this works, if it was successful, that $ question mark is shorthand for if the last command ran successfully or not. So like we could do git dash process, right? And then if I do $ question mark, it'll say true. And if we do the same thing with a 2 to it, it'll come back with a failure. And then if we do $? It'll say false, right? Because
Hey.
this command failed to run.
Jeremy, I don't think we're seeing we're still seeing the Azure AD
I'm
screen.
sorry.
That's okay.
Might be. Let's do that again then. Sorry. Seeing it now?
Not yet. There it goes.
All right. So yeah, so like I said, so this is all that code. Connect, supporting each of the different domains. And then, like I was saying up top, I have failed to start with. And then when I run those commands, if they are successful, that's what this means, then I flip them to success.
Oh.
And I was showing, so like if you do a get process, right, it'll run. And then if we do a $? It says true. And if we do that same command with a 2 and it fails, and then we do a $? It'll say false. So the very last command to run, if it was successful, you get true. If not, so it's a decent way to validate success, right? So that's all that this is, and then everything under here is just me generating an email.
Gotcha.
Right here.
So here's a couple questions. One is from me, and another one after we get finished talking about this. People wanted to see what's going on behind the scene with your Labs stuff. So maybe you can show that after we get done talking about this. But one question I had was, I heard you talk about scheduling these scripts to run and using cron. So can you talk a little bit about how exactly you're scheduling these things to run, and what kind of what mechanism you're using?
Yeah, I just have a scheduled task server.
Okay.
So I just have one server that I devote to running all of my scheduled tasks.
Okay.
And then I just build a scheduled task to run some PowerShell.
Gotcha.
Let me start up a different console window. Run as administrator for this one. So new share this window. This text might be a little small. If it is, let me know and I can embiggen it. Actually, I'm going to keep it short. I don't want to go anywhere else. So get dash schedule. Well, let's just do this first. There's gonna be a ton of them. So yeah, so here's some stuff in Office 365.
Gotcha.
So that should just give me those. So I've got a few different folders. I've got an Office 365 folder, an Active Directory folder, a backups folder. I think you can see there's a bunch of different ones for different things. These are all, of course, built-in ones. And then all of my scheduled tasks run out of there. So for all kinds of stuff. So like I said, like the thing that I was talking about for licensing is this one right here. The thing for verifying that a full import, which apparently I turned off at some point, is right here. The verifying that my deltas are running correctly is here. That's the lid hold one. And they all look the exact same as far as the scheduled task goes, because I also use code to make my scheduled tasks. So yeah, so all of my scheduled tasks are built the exact same way. It's just the user that's running it may be different For all of these, it's just a general AD user. There's no special permissions to it because the Office 365 stuff doesn't need it, right? So all of these, if we go look at any of them, are going to involve using the get secret module.
Cool.
Let's see. Oh, apparently I need to go update those. They are not doing the get secret module. Things that you learn, right? So, yeah, so I'll show you, like, this is the old way of doing credential management. Don't do this.
We're still seeing your
But this is what
your PowerShell.
it should update.
Okay.
Yeah, it should update here in a second. So something like this is what you would do, right? So beforehand, you would have to create this text file, this CRUD file, and that would store a secure string in it. And that secure string would only be able to be decrypted, quote unquote, only be able to be decrypted by the account that did the encrypting. So whatever account I'm running this code as, I have to interactively log in with that account to create this credential file. And then I take the username, I convert the CRUD file back into a secure string, and then I build a credential object off of that and then use that to connect to the service. So nowadays, though, it should just be as easy as get secret dash name and then the name that you want, right, for your secret. So there's my username, there's my password, and I can get rid of all of this code in place of just get secret instead. And it's stored in a more secure location than just on the file system.
Gotcha.
But like that, yeah, and this one's a pretty straightforward one. Connect, pull some information right here. So I'm just getting back a bunch of data, filtering it on a little bit of it, and then a whole bunch of stuff to make a pretty email. That's all it is. So if you didn't want the email to have a border on it, because this one goes out to a bunch of managers, so you know how they are. Anybody here a manager? Can I just shoot myself in the foot? So, but yeah, this one was, I wanted it to be a little prettier. So it has a bunch of borders and lines things up. So it's a more consumable thing. Most of mine, it's just text in an email, you know? So, but yeah. So the cron server stuff, that's really all there is to it. It's just, I have one server that holds a whole bunch of code and runs it.
Cool. So before we run out of time, can you show us what's behind the scenes on that, like the get lapse password script?
Let's see if password reset. No. Where's that one at? It's not in here. Yeah, give me a second.
Okay.
WebGIA. I've recently gone through and tried to reorganize. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of stuff just floating around everywhere. And so I don't know where I put that one. So in order to make the problem worse, I'm just going to go grab it again real fast. I believe that's the one we want. Copy that code. One. C. Get Active Directory. WebGIA. Paste. Nope. right, that should be there now. Boop. Boop. So this is what that code looks like. So the lapse password is, so again, this is running in WebGIA, right? So all this, there's a bunch of stuff in here because when you go to the website, let me just, so you can see the two working together. Let me share WebGIA again real fast. So this website right here, right? So the computer name is the name of the variable. Reset admin password. This isn't the right one. Or is it? No, computer info. I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry, hold on a second again.
Is that it down under computer info lapse password?
Do you see it in here?
It's down on the left-hand side. It's down towards.
Oh, yeah.
User config jabber. Is that something different?
Yeah, that's the one I want, but I don't have the script for it. So I want to make sure I have the script to show you the code for it. Actually, no, this is help message, computer name, yeah, reset, force reboot. This is not the one that I want. That's the one that I want. Copy that one too. Sorry about making y'all wait. All right, there we go. So yeah, so let's go. This is the one that we were interested in, right? So, so here you can see this is the parameter name, computer info, and then like all of this text here that's coming in. All of this comes by adding content to the script itself. So if we go take a look back at the script. Let me know when you can see my code again.
Yep.
So here you can see where all of that was coming from. So up top is the data that's coming at the very top of the page. And then my parameter is called computer name, so that's what you see. And then that help information came because I'm supplying a property to this parameter called help message. So, and then from there, your lapse password is actually install or is part of a specific AD attribute. And so all I'm doing here is, again, cleaning up anything. So if a user adds a space or something in the name of the account, and then I retrieve the computer object out of AD. So, and then this is where that password is actually stored, is in this file, is in this attribute. So you could go into ADUC right now, and if you search for, or go to Attribute Editor tab and go search for this, you'll see the password for lapse stored there. So I'm just pulling that programmatically. So I come and I get that information using this function, and then output that data right here. So that's all there is to it.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, and like I said, and this kind of stuff right here, so you could do this kind of reporting is the best way to go learn this stuff, because you can't screw it up. You're just getting data, putting it on your computer, and then messing around with it. So making reports is one of the coolest ways, you know, things start, because there's lots of, you know, cool things too, man. Like one of the things that I use most often is group object, and when I show that to people, their brains explode usually. Because you can do things like, let's see, so let's get AD user filter. Come on, hurry up, module, pick it up. Surname equal Brown. There's going to be a bunch of Browns, right? So Brown users. All right, so now I have a bunch of Brown users from the organization, right? Oh, let's spell count right. 149 of them. So if we go, oh, well, let's do that one more time and let's pull all of the properties. That'll take a second longer. Because I want to have enough data for us to play with. Come on, I didn't think it'd take this long. And if you were wondering why the get 80 user module and so many other modules only return a subset of the data, this is why. You know, typically you'll get what? First name, last name, same account name, DN, whether it's enabled or not, it's UPN, and that, I think that might be it. So, but you know, there's hundreds of attributes on a user object. So instead of pulling back the 8, we're pulling back hundreds for each one of those 149 users. So this is considerably faster because you're just grabbing less information. And when you do this, you typically would do like properties and specify just those things you want to add on to the 8. But I don't know what I want, so we're going to do that. So that's everything from one user, right? It's a ton of information. But let's take a look at department, right? So we can use $Brown users, and then let's group these things by department. So, and here I can see for all of the users with the last name of Brown, there are 18 with an undefined department, and then all the rest of them, here's each of the counties for which those users are in. So this is such a good way for exploring data, is to use group object and select object, and then just look, right? So I use this all the time. So because you want to know where the outliers are a lot of times, and this will tell me. So right here, I already know I have 18 users that have an issue in them, right? Because all of my users should be in a county. There are no county-less users. So, so this is a super cool little tool. And you can do things like sort object, descending. Oh wait, I got to specify what I want to sort by. So we're going to sort by count. And then here are all of them with the highest at the front and the lowest at the bottom. And then if like I wanted to know all 20 that were in Wake County, then you could just select object, group. Do I want to expand that? Where, and then you would do something like, what is that, name equals Wake. So I've got a bunch of Brown users. I want to group them. Really, I wouldn't even need to do that. So here it tells me I'm interested in this one. That's my top one. So let's make this less complicated. So then once you learn that, right? So because I'm interested in that, you know, or even better, well, we'll do this one. I'm interested in that one that has the most in it. So I can see Wake has the most in it. I use group object for that. And then I can just pass that here through a where object. And then this would become department now. I just made this really confusing. I'm so sorry. Does that make sense what I'm doing? And I'm pulling department because I know that so if we do Brown users, let's just go look at one of them again. That very first one. So we know that in its shape, department is what we were looking at, right? That's what we grouped the object on because we wanted to group by the county that they were in, which is being stored in the department attribute. So once I did the group object, by department, we can see that the Department of Wake has the most users. So then I can just come in and say, well, now that I know that's the one I'm interested in, for all of these users, go give me those that are just in Wake County. And then that would return all of those 18 or 20 users rather. And just to prove to you that I'm right, throw that to a measure object. And you can see there's 20 users being returned. So I would say, to circle all the way back around to how do you get good, go play like this, because there's no risk in doing what we're doing right here. And there's how many times a day do you get asked a question about something where you can go to PowerShell, issue a get command, learn some PowerShell, and be able to answer that question at the same time. And then after you do that a few times, PowerShell starts to, make sense. And then from there, you just hit the ground and start running.
Awesome. We are a little bit.
So
We are a little bit over
Yeah.
time, guys. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. Really want to thank Jeremy for basically running the show. I know myself, I've learned a ton from what Jeremy has shown us. So if anybody has any questions, I'm free to hang out a little while longer. I don't know about Jeremy, but anybody
Yeah,
has
I'm
any
free.
questions, just throw them in the chat or unmute yourself and throw them at us if you want. But anyway, again, I definitely want to thank everybody for joining the session. I know Rob's got some questions. He's being quiet.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been immensely educational for me. Trying to get it implemented here is going to be my biggest challenge because I just do not have enough hours in the day. But
Right.
But yeah, that was really really helpful. I got to jump off, but thanks for everything. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
man.
Have a good night.
Yeah, Glenn and Ted will have all that stuff ready by Friday.
Well, I think the thing is, if you can take the time to get some of this stuff set up, it's gonna save you time in the long run. But kind of
Definitely.
getting it there is what Jeremy's done a great job of. So we're definitely going to try to get some inspiration from him.
Yeah, you have to do that upfront investment.
It snowballs fast. Once you get the first couple in, it's easy to, the first couple of the hard ones where you're figuring out, well, where do I want to run my code from, and how do I need to set this up, and am I doing code signing or not, and all these other, all that hard stuff happens in the first two, and then after that, it's just routine. After that, it's just, let me go make something real quick, put it over here. That's where I put all my stuff. I make it like this, done, and then you walk away from it. And the cool part is management still thinks that I'm doing this by hand most of the time. So they tell me about how hard I'm working. I can't believe that you stay on top of all of this stuff. And I'll be like, just that good an employee.
You don't say that till my manager's in here.
None of mine are, so just between
Don't
us,
listen to
none of y'all
Rob.
go talking to my
Smart work.
managers.
AJ, I'm going to make you do a full disclosure on how much of a Jeremy's code you've got.
I don't think I stole too much of it when we both left NC State. I carried over some of it when I grabbed my repo when I left, but not a lot.
Yeah, I still got my backup from state as well somewhere. I don't even know where it is. Most of that code's useless at this point. So things change so fast now.
Yep.
But it really, it's automating, and I think automating in Office 365 is just ripe for it. There's just so much available. Microsoft's done a really good job of making the data pretty programmatically accessible. So there's a lot of other things where I think there's a lot more effort involved to get to that data, because like group policy objects, for instance, that module sucks. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing easy about that module. There's some others I'm just spacing on. The Windows Update module's crap. You know what I mean? Like there's some tough ones out there. but all of his Office 365 stuff is very accessible.
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot of trash about Microsoft, but I really do feel like they're headed in the right direction, in some areas, just like that, so hopefully that'll continue. I know there's a big push for them to basically fix Windows updates and Microsoft updates and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
hopefully they'll be working on that.
There's been a big push for that for the last, 3 decades?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
It's Windows 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, this is
So Chocolatey is supposed to have something for updating Windows that's supposed to be pretty good, but I haven't played with it myself.
Hey, this is Chris from Henderson.
Hey, Chris.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
The Visual Studio that you're using, Jeremy, is that a paid product, or is that happen to be included with our enterprise license? Office 365.
It's
Free download.
It's free. It costs nothing. Yeah, just go to visualstudiocode.com.
It's got a whole bunch of plugins. It's a real good editor.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
the PowerShell ISE used to be the thing that you wrote PowerShell in. They've quit supporting that completely. That's dead. And all of that has moved. All of that effort has moved to VS Code, and it supports a ton of stuff like C#, Java, PHP. Like there's tons of extensions. Like when I write on my personal time, I write code into like Azure for serverless apps and stuff. So I can do all of that in VS Code completely. So I'll actually interact with Azure and be like, I need a resource group. I'm making an app service. I want to function here, and I never once actually go to the web for it. It's all done inside VS Code. It's a fantastic editor.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
Good stuff. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no worries. So
Thank you.
jeremy.brown@nccourts.org. If y'all got questions or anything, please shoot me an email. I'm always available to help out.
All right.
Thanks,
Great job,
guys.
Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, y'all have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.